What is the cringiest thing you have done to get a crush's attention? I liked a boy in the 7th grade. Every day I would buy a Gatorade and pretend I couldn't open it and ask him to. One day I did open and panicked. I tried to close it again as tight as I could and give it to him to open it for me. He called out on how easy it was to open and looked like it had already been opened. I wanted to climb under the bleachers. I had a girl do this to me in high school. She was in our friend group and only ever asked me to open her Diet Pepsi bottle. One time it was really on there and so I gripped it tight and cranked it open, causing it to spray all over her. She stopped asking me after that. Told her on AIM I had a crush on someone. When she asked to, I waited a bit, then typed to and signed off dramatically. We did not get married. X-Files theme starts playing. I asked her out by parking outside her house and writing it on the windows of my car in car chalk. She sent the dog outside and said, "You should leave. My dog is outside, he's pretty mean." Oof. I was young. Called crush's phone every 60 seconds for an hour. No answer. Repeat. I figured she'd pick up once she got home and I wanted to talk to her ASAP. Unfortunately, she was on the phone with someone else the entire time, getting the "you have another call" notifications about incoming calls. Just wasn't responding to them. After about the 60th time she picked up and screamed "what?" and I tried to worm out of it like it wasn't me that had just called her over and over and over. She didn't buy it, of course. This one still keeps me up at night 30 years later. I had a friend who would do that crap to me. She actually left a message once of herself breathing into the receiver. You'll think it was ironic, meant to be funny, but we were in 1st grade. We didn't know how to be ironic or funny. We had a foreign exchange student my freshman year of high school. She was French and absolutely gorgeous. So naturally, all of us boys were smitten with her. She was in choir and sang really well. So I figured since I was a musician as well, that was mine with her. So, I busted my butt and learned a love song from a very popular French opera. It took me a really long time to memorize and I thought it would be a bold gesture. So, I sang it to her flawlessly and asked her how she liked it, thinking that taking the effort to learn a love song in her language would be a great gesture. Well, that day, I found out that she was Swedish, not French. I'm freaking stupid. My crush was a kid who lived down the block from my house. I stole his dog from his yard and then went to his front door to return it and get to talk to him. He said he saw me take him out of the yard. I avoided him after that. In kindergarten, I proposed to my crush by yelling across the playground. Didn't get an answer back. In high school, I got some presents for my different crush's birthday. Barely talked to her in person because I was painfully shy, but always talked to her on AIM. Went up to her awkwardly with a red face, gave her the presents, said happy birthday and walked away immediately out of sheer embarrassment. She told me later she liked the gifts. Well, at least she liked the gifts. I once had an oblivious customer who would always try and hit on one of my co-workers, give her a pair of earrings for Christmas. She didn't have pierced ears. In 12th grade I had a huge crush on this guy in one of my classes. I knew his favorite book and movie was Fight Club, so I googled everything about it, along with watching the movie. On Valentine's Day, I sent him a card that said "I want to have your abortion" and gave him my phone number. This made me choke on my freaking juice. Thank you for that laugh. Sheepishly handed her a letter and ran away. In like 10th grade that would have been like a D. Rambly mess in speech form that basically said, "Hey, you're cool, want to hang out sometime," in 3 paragraphs because I was nervous as all frick and didn't know how to people. Funny thing is that she brought it up again in senior year and asked if I wanted to catch a movie or something. 13 years old, I learned my crush had taken ballroom dancing lessons. Delighted to have something to talk to him about, I proceeded to harass him all of homecoming with what I probably thought was good-natured ribbing. Looking back, I was being an butthole and straight up making fun of him. Poor guy took it like a champ, but freaking heck, I had no idea how to be social. Sorry, Phil. That's a lot of damage. Once I was 14, I accidentally sent a picture of me in a super fancy dress to my crush because I wanted him to ask me to the dance. I was 15 and I had a crush on this boy for 2 years. One day a friend of mine told me that he was about to ask me out. He came up to me, said hello, and while anxiety took the best of me, I wanted to look cool, so I said, do I actually know you? Are you new in school? He instantly turned around and left. We had been classmates since elementary school. Oof, I felt this one. Early college years. She mentioned offhand that she was reading The Hunger Games. So naturally I read the entire trilogy and then tried to bring it up in conversation. She wasn't into me and that certainly did not help. I binge watched 4 seasons of a crappy TV show because my crush loved it. When I was about 15 or 16 years old, I went on a family holiday with my mum and sister to Italy. We were staying in a hotel with a shared swimming pool, and there were a few other families with kids of similar ages all hanging around. I used to see this girl, roughly my age or maybe a couple of years older, pretty much every day by the pool. Blonde hair, nice body, just basically gorgeous. I think because she smiled at me a couple of times I convinced myself that she must be the one. And due to boredom, this was before smartphones, the internet, I spent basically the whole week gearing myself up to go and talk to her. I spent days just thinking of ways I could approach her, what to say, building up courage. It was the most important thing in my life at that moment, but was difficult because she was always around her family or I was around mine. There never seemed to be an opening. Then, right at the end of the holiday, the perfect moment presented itself. I was by the pool, alone. She was by the pool, alone. This was my time. This was everything. It all comes down to this moment. So what's it going to be? Am I going to be a man and approach her, or spend the rest of my life in turmoil wondering what might have been? So I walked up to her. I smile. She smiles. I say hello. She looks confused. I say hello again. She still looks confused. Hi? Nope. That didn't work either. This is going horribly. Why did I do this? Please let me be hit by a sniper right now. Why is there never a sniper? I asked her if she wanted a drink, because, of course, if she can't understand a basic hello in English, then a full sentence was definitely the best way to proceed, and she looked even more confused. I think during this whole exchange, which felt like 2 hours but was in reality only about 26 seconds, she had only said the word "a" with a mixture of bewilderment and pity. So, I walked to the bar, bought 2 lemonades. I wasn't old enough to buy anything a little more suave, and walked back over to her. I mean, I'm invested at this point, right? No point in backing out now. Otherwise I would have just made a total fool out of myself for absolutely no reason. I place a lemonade down next to her. She says thanks. So she did speak English, the freaking liar, and I swagger away feeling like James Bond, until I dropped my glass, which smashed into tiny pieces, most of which went into the pool, which then had to be evacuated while the staff cleaned glass out of it, and I got told off by the lifeguard, right in front of her and her family, who had since returned and were all staring at me. Hit me up if you need advice on how to approach the ladies, fellas. I confessed to her that I liked her friend so she would help me get with her. I did it so I could spend more private time with my actual crush. Worked like a charm. 14-year-old me was a genius. Plot twist, she agreed to help you so that she could spend more alone time with you. I'm running a 5k tomorrow for no other reason than she is, and I'm going to have a heart attack. Back when I was in middle school I had a crush on this girl. I was into writing at the time, so I put her in a fantasy story I wrote, where she was a warrior. She hated it and told everybody, and showed them the copy I gave her. This did not help my bullying. I still die from thinking about the cringe. Become a writer. Get your script adapted into a HBO series. Win Best Adapted Screenplay. Call her out in your acceptance speech. Mic drop. I had a crush on this girl that was a friend of mine's cousin at his 14th birthday party, and she had a helium balloon tied to her wrist. So I hatched a plan and not so subtlety untied it a bit while talking to her so it would float to the ceiling, and only I could reach it for her because I was the tallest boy at the party. Except the ceiling was higher than I anticipated, so I had to stand on something and jump, and when I jumped I farted, and when I farted it was a wet one and my jean shorts were white. That just got better and better and better. Put an entire pack of bubble gum in my mouth and tried to chew it. Ended up drooling on myself. She left the lunch table. Frick, that hurts to type. I bet that was hard to swallow. Rimshot. My own tale of cringe. I had a crush on a guy who I had 2 classes with. It made sense in my 15-year-old brain that intense eye contact would signal to him that I was all in. Every time we had to talk about something, I stared directly into his eyes without blinking. Also, I read that people like large eyes, but I couldn't do makeup, since mascara makes your eyes look larger, so I would make my eyes as wide as I could. This also meant that if I was talking to another boy, I should look away as much as possible so he didn't think I was into them instead. So the guys in the class thought I was really standoffish, and I'm sure he thought I wanted to murder him. Sorry, Jack. I knew someone who tried the exact same thing. It was so freaking creepy. Oh god man, why you gotta bring up these memories? There have been a few, but one of them was I made this girl a mix CD and did a crappy Photoshop cover for it and everything. IDKWTF, I was thinking, I don't want to suffer alone. Leaned over in English class every day and copied his handwriting until ours matched. I had this theory that if our handwriting looked the same he would fall in love with me, but he turned out to be mean, and I wound up with pretty handwriting. He noticed and made terrible fun of me in front of his friends on one of the last days of school, grade 7, and I was crushed. Oh, Caleb, you were so handsome in your Monster Energy hat. How could you? If our handwriting looked the same he would fall in love with me. You were so handsome in your Monster Energy hat. This is the funniest one to me. In elementary school, climbed onto a snowbank during recess and basically did the 2003 version of twerking in snow pants. Not me, but I'll post anyway. At the site where I was doing the practicum part of my graduate school program, there was a fellow trainee who I could tell liked me, but had never had the opportunity to work with me or have any reason to talk to me. One day I was in the library doing some research, and was crouching down scanning the lowest bookshelf in a stack looking for the book I needed. This girl accidentally on purpose dropped a book on my head as she slowly walked past me, and proceeded to apologize profusely and take the opportunity to run her hand slowly over the spots on my head and shoulders where the book had hit. She then stuck around and flirted with me awkwardly for the next 5-10 minutes, before handing me a slip of paper with her email address in case I ever wanted to study together. Being married, I didn't take her up on her offer. I certainly felt flattered, as she wasn't bad looking at all. Plus I have a lot of respect for women who have the nerve to make the first move on a guy they like. I just didn't have the heart to tell her that she might want to be a little more subtle next time. She doesn't have to beat a guy over the head with it. I swear to God, if you made up this story just for that joke at the end. I was maybe 14 at the time and saw my crush riding their bike down my street, so I ran to grab a blanket, dashed outside, laid out on the lawn and pretended to talk really loud on the phone. Had to pretend to have a conversation because had no friends to actually call. This reminds me of that comment on a similar thread a few weeks ago where the girl would just go sit on the side of the road in front of her crush's house and read a book as if that were a totally normal thing to do. My dad tells this story of when he was like 9 years old. He was waiting at his school bus stop with a couple of girls that he liked. There was a big butt rock by him that was like a mini boulder. He told the girls he could throw this rock over a moving car. I guess he wanted them to think he was strong or something. So he waits for a car to drive by, lifts and chucks the giant rock, but instead of going over the car, it crashes into the car's windshield. The car stops and the preacher of his church comes out. Super P. My dad then booked it home. Oh god, I made a fake Facebook account to post on my wall and talk to him so it looked like I had made friends. I hate middle school me. Army eye roll. I thought it would be a real winner if I intentionally played a mandolin very badly while belting out an off-key self-written tune with the only lyrics being "frick me." Now, I did it in front of a friend of mine and he thought it was hilarious, so, naturally, women and men having the exact same sense of humor, I figured this was a surefire win and we would be planning our wedding in a fortnight. She did not, however, respond favorably to my most humble supplications. Too subtle. When I was in like 3rd grade or something, I pulled my shirt down below my shoulder. I'm a guy. A teacher called me out too. This hurts to remember. On summer break after my 6th grade, I saw the boy I had a crush on at a festival in my hometown. Had no idea how to get his attention, so I deliberately placed my foot in front of a woman pushing a baby buggy so that she'd run over it. Made a big scene out of it and started to yell and pretend that it hurt really badly. It didn't. Poor woman looked traumatized. That's one of the stories that keep me awake at night. Oh, and BTW, he did notice that and proceeded to laugh at me with his friends. What was I thinking? I lived in a neighborhood with an elementary school smack dab in the middle of it. Most kids knew where every other kid lived. I once put a bunch of ladybugs into a mason jar with flowers and poked holes in the top to provide air. I left it on her porch wrapped in a sock. All the ladybugs were dead by the time she got to it. Sorry, Erin. So sad. Purposely avoided talking to her. Still know her now. Still kind of have feelings for her now. Still rarely talk to her. In this case it wasn't me, but my actual crush. I was hanging out with her, and she were kinda cuddled in a bench, and she started like rubbing her face against mine like cats do. It was really weird, but having a crush on her. I didn't say anything. Oh no, is it really that weird? That's what I like, LMAO. Conversation died down and couldn't think of something to say, so I spammed keys on the keyboard, hit enter, and said my cat ran across the keyboard. Oof. I did that once on Snapchat. Still not sure about the thought process behind that. High school freshman me thought that it would be a great idea to put paper clips in her hair, as in, stab them through her hairband. High school me had problems. Dude, one time I tossed an empty water bottle at a girl's head to get her attention. I didn't even have a crush on her, I was just bored, a dumb ass. She turned around and went off. I'm still hating myself for that. Not me, but the girl who had a crush on me. In 6th grade she dropped me a paper from the 2nd floor and ran away. It said, "Will you go out with me? Yes or yes." She was angry at me the next day for not giving her the paper back, but now we're still friends and she realizes how cringy it was. I still haunt her with that story. In high school, I learned tuba just to impress a girl cause she said she likes tubas. Turns out she only said that cause she was currently dating a tubist. Also, in 8th grade somebody left me the lyrics to a love song by the Beatles but changed all the names to mine, even the ones that didn't make sense. I am the U-Cordner, Goo Goo Jujube. Pretended to smoke crushed up window greens as crack and ended up with a busted lip. Yeah, puberty is a strange freaking drug on its own. Why has nobody asked to have this one explained yet? In 1st grade I had a crush on this girl in my class. My nickname at the time was Snakebite. Adults gave it to me. IDK. Well, I told her my nickname was Snakebite and it just so turns out that she loves snakes. So we became friends for a while. One day we were in music class sitting on the floor listening to the teacher. I thought this would be the perfect time to serenade her with the song of my people. So I started slithering around her in a circle making hissing noises. The teacher promptly asked me what on earth I was doing and embarrassment ensued. Oh, I win. My space era story. Let's start at the beginning. I was insanely in love with this girl I had known since the first day of kindergarten. Had told her many times all the way through elementary, and despite this, she treated me as a valued friend. Well, we get to middle school, 7th grade, and I decided I needed to step up my game. Obviously she couldn't see my dedication, so I delete all my top friends except for her, and proceed to pour my heart all into my page. Wrote a number of paragraphs professing my love for her, detailing how I would just sometimes sit with my friend and cry because of how much I loved her, how she was a real life angel walking on earth, how I couldn't keep going on without her and wanted her to love me back. It was incredibly painful to read a few years later. To make matters worse, I went to school the next day and made sure I told all my friends to go check out my page, that I had made some updates. So, everyone saw it. Ended up taking it down when a close friend of hers told me that she would probably be more receptive if I just gave her some space for a while. I got crap on for a long time after that, but we did end up dating the very next year for a couple months. Became a fan of Aerosmith because he used to wear an Aerosmith t-shirt all the time. This was around the time Get a Grip came out, so like mid-90s. To this day I change the radio station when Aerosmith comes on. I do that too, but not because of an old crush. I remember sophomore year I sent a girl a carnation on Valentine's Day. She came up to me later that day and said, "I heard you sent this to me. Do you wanna go out?" And somewhere in my brain I thought this is a prank. I looked at her dead in the eyes and said, "Nope. Someone else must have sent it." Looking back on it, she definitely knew I sent it. She was part of the group that delivered them. I am so sorry. I am now also in pain. For some reason or another, I had been bragging about my ability to spit a watermelon seed with deadly accuracy. The young woman to whom I had made these claims, which probably should have sent her sprinting in any direction other than toward me, challenged me to hit her textbook as a show of this alleged skill. I'd like to mention that I did not tell her to stand directly in front of me. Anyway, my first shot went wide, sailing far off to the girl's left. She said something akin to her and took to lightheartedly berating me for overblowing the scope of my abilities. As she was speaking, I fired my second shot, and against all odds, it landed directly in her mouth. Needless to say, we were both shocked, and in an effort to evoke some humor from the situation, I said something to the effect of, "Well, hey, since we've sort of kissed already now, want to make it official?" Just in case you were wondering, it's definitely not the best idea to suggest tonsil hockey when your intended paramour is already suppressing gags. TLDR. I shot my black load into a girl's mouth. TLDR. I shot my seed into a girl's mouth. FTFY. Not even a crush, but when I was younger, me and a couple friends would always skateboard around the local Albertsons. One time there was this cute girl that was walking up the street and my genius butt thinks it'd be super badass to ollie down the 3-stair right when she walks by. Ollie down the stairs, lose balance, board shoots out from under me, hits her in the fricking shin. This is an accurate representation of how my life has gone thus far. When I was little, I was in a school hallway with a friend who was fake punching me. I noticed my crush walking closer, so what did I do? I explained to my friend why those fake punches are ineffective and gave an alternative way to better take out your opponent, as superior fighting knowledge is the flawless way to make a girl swoon. I regret doing it. It hurts to think about. Go out every day and ignore them while silently hoping they notice me and find me interesting enough to talk to. It's incredibly effective, let me tell ya. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.